One of the most common reasons why people fail to scale their agency isn't their niche, it isn't their offer, it isn't their sales skill, it isn't their cold email campaigns, it's none of that stuff. It is because their processes and operations are non-existent or built in a terribly wrong way. And the agencies operate differently every single day. Every single client gets onboarded in a different way. Every single client campaign gets built in a different way. And all the people working on the agency in itself, you and your team members included, have no clue what they should be working on and what their actual roles and responsibilities are. Throughout the past 3 years, I have worked with my team with over 500 agency owners. We have coached them, we have consulted them, we have mentored them, we have built their processes and systems, all these things. And we have seen that one of the biggest gaps why people either scale to multi-six figures or 7 figures with their agency is because of their backend. Because stuff works. Stuff is systemized, it's optimized, it's measured, it's tracked, and it makes sense. So that's pretty much it. That's what we're going to be talking about today. If you are first time seeing my video and you have no clue why I'm even talking about this, who is this dude? Why can't we talk about this? Like I said, we have been consulting hundreds of agencies for the past few years. I run my own B2B growth marketing agency with three team members. We work with early stage startups, finding a product market fit, but we have also worked with some of the biggest and fastest growing companies in our industry. $billion companies that do hundreds of millions a year. We have booked thousands or tens of thousands of meetings, sent millions of emails, generated tens of millions of dollars through cold email and just B2B growth marketing processes. And I have used this stuff to build businesses where I'm completely outsourced or build businesses where I'm completely in the trenches, but customers get amazing results or do both. Of course, the systems don't matter if customers don't get good results. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to first go and walk you through more of a general process in an agency, more of an administrative, more of an operational process for everyday tasks that happen inside the agency, how to make sure that those are streamlined, those are optimized, those work well and don't cause clients to churn. And I'm also going to show you an example of our own agency's fulfillment workflow. So we're going to be seeing how we fulfill for our clients, what are the exact steps we take, how do we make decisions on what to do with our clients and stuff like this. So if you are an agency owner, let's say you run a social media marketing agency, B2B lead generation agency, AI automation agency, copywriting agency, email marketing agency, ad creative agency, whatever agency you run, this is going to be really useful for you. Maybe you're just starting out or maybe you're already more advanced in your journey. No matter what the situation is, this stuff will help you now or in the future to make a way more money, have way happier clients and live a better life. So that's my promise to use. So first thing here on this whiteboard, this is an example first of a more general process in an agency. So I have used the onboarding process here as an example, but this could be anything. This could be invoicing, this could be payroll, this could be taxes or accounting, this could be whatever, team member training, hiring, team calls, whatever. This process could work for any part of the agency. So an onboarding process, and also this makes sense, every single agency is going to pretty much have the same process. So here I have just mapped out pretty much the onboarding process when a client comes in and also what happens when the onboarding is done. And as you can see, I have mapped out a few different roles here. So this is an example when you run a small agency, maybe it's just you and an executive assistant, a virtual assistant, whatever, co-founder, business partner. And there's of course a client, and there's of course then in some cases both parties have to do it. So what happens when a client comes in or when a client gets close? So the first thing that of course always has to happen for you to start onboarding is the client has to agree on the partnership and on the terms of the partnership. They have to tell you in a sales call, in an email, in whatever format, hey, John, we want to start working with you. And what most people do at this point is they are like, holy shit, the client got closed. What do we do now? We need this, we need that. And they just start freestyling the client onboarding. But what you need to understand is that client onboarding is one of the most important parts of the business. And you can't afford to freestyle this. You can't afford to just make it up on the go, Because when the client agrees on working with you, in the first 24 to 48 hours, they're going to decide if they actually think that this is a good decision or that this was a good decision, or if it wasn't. And if they get a bad first impression of you, it is first of all going to last for the whole length of your partnership, most likely. Second of all, they're gonna start having buyer's remorse. They're gonna think, we should have not bought this, maybe this was a mistake, and they're gonna start finding reasons, they might even make them up, why they should stop working with you. So literally, if you mess up the onboarding process, from minute one when you close the client is literally going to start churning. Of course, like in Mad Men they say, the minute you close a client is the minute you start losing a client. But at least with a good onboarding process, you can lengthen the client's retention with you and how long they stay with you and how happy they are with you and how responsive they are and etc. So the first thing that has to happen is the client agrees on a partnership and terms. What happens next? Boom. Onboarding call is scheduled. The reason why we schedule the onboarding call before we do anything else is because this creates a timeline. What a lot of people do with their agencies, they close a client and then they're like, yeah, I'm gonna send a contract, I'm gonna send an invoice, I'm gonna do this and this and that, I'm gonna email you all the stuff. But the problem here is that there's no urgency. The client might take 3 weeks to read the contract. They might take 2 weeks to do the payment. It's just gonna lengthen up. And the worst case scenario, the client is never gonna actually close because there's no time frame set. There's no next steps. But what I noticed this few years ago, is if I just book the onboarding call, the first thing. So for example, I say, okay, John, great. I'm super excited to start working with you. Let's book an onboarding call for next Monday. Let's say 5 days in the future. John is okay, boom, we have an onboarding call next Monday. Then I can tell John, hey, just make sure that you sign the contract and pay the first invoice before we hop on the onboarding call, so we don't have to reschedule it and go through all of this stuff. Correct? And then there's this 5 day deadline or 5 day time limit when the client has to clearly do these things. If you don't have the onboarding schedule, they're gonna, I'm gonna do it tomorrow. There's no rush. And this is of course terrible for you because then you are in this gray zone of, did I close this client or did I not? It's also really bad for a cash flow. So I always like to schedule the onboarding call first. And once again, depending on how you run your agency, this might look different for you. This is just an example. So the onboarding call gets scheduled, and then when the onboarding call is scheduled, the contract is sent to the client. And once again, in an optimal scenario, you have already reviewed the contract with the client on the call where they agree to it before you send it out. I like to just do it because it makes it easier for the client to sign the contract. You review all the main terms. There's maybe a few things in your contract that might cause friction. You're like, they might not enjoy this or they might not like this. Maybe you have NDAs or IP confidentiality clauses or whatever clauses. And you want to review them and talk them through. You know, you have to sell them on each point of the contract. Hey, the reason why you have to sign an NDA or the reason why you have to do this and this and this is because of X, Y, and Z. So you give them a reason. Otherwise, they're just going to look at the contract alone and they're going to go, what the fuck? This guy wants us to sign an NDA. I'm never doing that. Fuck that dude. I'll go to another agency, you know? So once again, you can sell them on the points, why these points are actually justified, why they make sense, etc. Both parties sign the contract, invoice gets sent to the client, or maybe it gets sent at the same time. Client pays the invoice, the onboarding call is hosted, the Slack channel is created, account access requests from the client if there's any accounts or any access that you need to get from, and access is gained to the accounts. So the process in itself here is nothing extremely important. Like this, the exact steps that you take here, this is not the whole point of this thing. What I'm trying to show here is that every single process in your business should be documented like this. Because here, as you can see, first of all, we can see who is responsible when a new client closes. You know, of course, client is responsible for the agreement, and maybe even you if you're on the sales call. Okay, who scheduled the onboarding call? You. Who sends the contract to the client? The executive assistant. Who signs the contract? Both parties. Who sends the invoice? Executive assistant. Who pays the invoice? Client. Who hosts the onboarding call? You. This way, every single person in your agency knows exactly what their responsibilities are, and it's also easier for you to manage. You're like, oh fuck, the onboarding calls needs to be done. It's Tuesday. Who's gonna run it? You come back to your process. You come back to documentation, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna be hosting the process. Or hey, who needs to create the Slack channel? Executive assistant. So then everything is way more clear on each part of the business. Then also what you can do when you have created this process and created this simple step-by-step is you can SOP every single step. So for example, you can have a template for the agreement here. So then every single time when you send the agreement, there's a template, boom, 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 everything is already here. You don't need to start figuring out the contract or the template or the agreement. Every single time when you need to host an onboarding call, you can just look at this SOP. You're like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to do this, I need to ask these questions, boom, 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 boom. So there's like a clear process for this. Or when your executive assistant needs to create a Slack channel, maybe they have forgotten, they can just come in here, they can come to the documentation, and boom, here's an exact SOP on how to create the Slack channel for the client and what to do and what buttons to press. So this once again makes it way easier to optimize this process, because what might happen is you start using your onboarding process, and then every single time when you send the contract to the client, you realize that damn, the process always gets cut here. So like, okay, what is wrong here? And you can identify what is the friction point. Okay, this is clear the friction point here, and this is where we lose clients. So then you can go and you can start optimizing this process. You can start optimizing the things that happen before it. So for example, really clear example here is we used to have this like years ago. We used to have like a 45-page contract or something crazy. It went over every single detail. And I realized that damn, here, we are losing a lot of clients. Like 30% of the clients I close never get past this point. What is the problem here? So what I did is I went and I changed our agreement. I made it simpler. I made it shorter. And I started walking the prospects or walking the clients through the agreement before I even sent it to them. Other thing I did is I just added this onboarding call before we actually sent the agreement. So there's a bit more urgency. And this way we fix this problem, and this is not a problem anymore. You know, we got everyone to sign the contract. So this way, when you have every single one of your processes mapped out like this, you can first of all identify pain points. You can identify where there are friction, when you are losing money. You can SOP each one of the steps. You can assign the responsibilities for every single part, so you know who is doing what. And you also have a really clear order, you know, in which order is these things created. You know, it's not like, you know that, okay, the next thing is this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and this is going to happen. It's way easier for you to run the business, and it also gives a way better first impression to you, because you can just pull this up and you can show to the client, hey, this is what is going to happen in the next 3 days, and this is how we're going to roll. And the clients are going to see this, damn, we are in good hands. These guys clearly know their stuff. This stuff is optimized. It makes sense, and it's way easier for us as clients to come on board because we know what's happening. We know what's happening. You know, a confused prospect never buys, and a confused client fucking never stays. So this way, it's going to be way more clear for you and also for the client. So the first thing that I recommend you to do, once again, if you're just in the starting stages, a lot of these might be a bit complex and you might not really know what is the most optimal way for you to go through these processes. But when you have already closed a few clients and you're already going through the motions of onboarding clients, etc., I would take every single part of your process or every single process inside your business. So onboarding clients, firing clients, sending invoices every single month, sending monthly reports, training team members, hiring them, onboarding them, doing all of these things. And I would just create a really simple project or like a process map like this, step by step. Okay, what happens first? What happens next? What happens next? Who is responsible for that step? Is there an SOP that is required for this? Boom. And if you do that, your business is going to run way better. And then if you right now don't have a team, you can look at this, you're like, okay, which parts do I want to get rid of? You know, let's say all of these red ones are also blue, and you're like, I would have so much more time to work on client projects if I didn't have to send the contracts, and if I didn't have to send the invoice, and if I didn't have to do this. Like, everything would be so much easier if there was someone to manage this. Boom, you hire an executive assistant and you tell them, hey, these are your roles and responsibilities. Every single time when a client comes on board, you do this and this and this and this. And maybe you have 5 other process maps like this, and there's also, you add like red boxes. So then the executive assistant who comes on board, they can look at all of the process maps and they're like, okay, all of the red boxes are mine. Here's all the SOPs for these things. I just do this every single day. Simple, you know? A lot of people are like, I hired this VA, or I hired this person, I hired that person. They were trash, lazy, slow. They did everything wrong. Most likely they tried their best. You just fucked up with the onboarding and the training. They didn't know what to do. So this is really simple and really useful for all of the basic processes in your business. But then there's of course also more complex processes that have a bit more edge cases. They have more variables that you are working with. For example, when you are fulfilling your service for the client. And once again, of course, probably a lot of people watching this video, you might be running a different agency than I am. I run a B2B growth marketing agency. You might be running an ad agency, an AI automation agency, etc. So the process is going to look different from you, but I'm just gonna, in a second, I'm gonna show you how we map out our own workflow or our own service delivery process. So maybe that gives you a bit of a better view on how to think about all these edge cases, because it's not always as simple as 1, 2, and 3. Sometimes there's 1, 2, damn, this didn't work out, we need to go back, we need to do something differently, and boom, 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 to make things work, you know? So here's an example of our full protocol client service delivery process, high-level overview, and I have removed sections B to F, because yeah, I don't really want to put our whole service delivery protocol here up on YouTube, because if there's any emerging competitors, they're gonna just replicate it, and we have spent years testing this stuff out and figuring this out. So the only place where we share our protocol is inside our mastermind. Otherwise, no one can see it. And of course our clients. But yeah, pretty much there's these yellow boxes that you can see here. These are pretty much the guiding outlines of our service delivery process. We have, from B to F, we have different metrics that we work on. First thing that we work on is the client's sales argument. After the sales argument is done and works, we work on client's outbound. And we have different KPIs here. When do we know that we are satisfied with this? With different clients, we might know that there's crazy amount of potential, so we change this number to maybe 30 calls a month. We know we can book 30 calls a month, so we change this out. Or sometimes, let's say it's super high ticket, super hardcore offer or product or service that we sell, we might change this to 3 calls a month, and we're gonna be happy with that. And we also have like a KPI for closing rate. We work on all of our client sales processes. So once again, it's like in some cases this might be different depending on what we are selling and who we are selling to. We also work on the client show up rate, we work on their inbound, and we also work their paid advertising. We do like really simple paid ads like lookalikes and retargeting ads on meta platforms. Meta platforms meaning IG and Facebook. So these are pretty much our guiding principles on what we work on with clients. And when we get all of these yellow boxes to the metrics where we are happy with it, we just keep maintaining the system. And if some of these metrics isn't up to par, or if some of these things are not where we want them to be, we know that, okay, this is a part where we need to work on. So then there's like also no confusion on our side or on the client side on if everything is done or not, you know? It's once again really simple. Hey, our closing rate is a bit less than 20%. We should work on the closing rate. Okay, boom, boom, boom. And we start implementing our things into the sales process to make it work. This also is a really, really good way to identify problems, because sometimes you work with a client and you're working on a few different things, few different parts of the process. You're generating them leads, you're helping them close the leads, you're doing inbound, outbound, and sometimes everything is working really well at the moment. But let's say we fast forward a month and suddenly the closing rate plummets, you know? We suddenly are closing way less. And if we are not tracking each one of these metrics, or if we are not aware of what different parts of the process we are actually working on, we might not notice that. We might be just everything is fine, everything was working a month ago, let's just keep rolling. But maybe something changed. Maybe we started bringing in more unqualified leads. Maybe they brought on a new sales rep. Maybe they changed something in their sales process. And then we can identify here, damn, suddenly this part is not working. We need to start working on it. I'm going to start to fixing it. So this is pretty much what we do. This might be different for you. Maybe you are doing paid ads or cold email lead generation or AI automation. So these steps or these main guiding principles are of course going to be different. But just for an example, I'm just going to go through our A1 section for the YouTube video. So what we pretty much do every single time when we start working with a client, we first ask, hey, does the client have a clearly written sales argument? And as you can see, I can't write. So does the client have a clearly written sales argument? No. So red lines means no, green lines means yes. And this pretty much is green, or it doesn't really matter in this case. So okay, is client's unique selling point clearly their mechanism? If the answer is no, we just move on here. If their big sales argument isn't their mechanism or the process how they get results, maybe they are in a less sophisticated market and they're just competing results, we probably don't need to do a sales argument. It's a long project, so we probably can just skip it and start go to generating leads immediately. But if their USP is clearly their mechanism, okay, what is the next thing? Is the mechanism unique? So is it something that we have to educate people on or show people? Or is the niche high sophistication? Once again, if an answer to, if this is not yes, we have to go here, and then we can just go and start working on outbound here. But if the mechanism is clearly unique, like something we are introducing something to the market that maybe they have never heard of, or most people have never heard of, or it's high sophistication, so there's a lot of competitors, a lot of noise in the market, and we need to clearly establish that, hey, our mechanism is better. In those cases, the answer is yes, and we go into creating a sales argument. Okay, the next thing that we are looking at, okay, does a client have 50 paying clients, old clients, or current clients? If the answer is yes, we reach out to the client list and we conduct 10 to 20 market research interviews. But what if they are an early stage startup, for example, like most of our clients are, there might not be any paying clients. So what we do in these cases is we set up outbound campaigns for market research interviews. So we need to go and reach out to the market and say, hey, could we interview you? We are doing market research, boom, boom, boom. And in these interviews, we pretty much just ask different pains and dreams and desires and goals and solutions and different things about their current state. So we're able to get them better results and write a better sales argument. We can't just go into writing without knowing anything about the niche. Okay, is the campaign that we just set up booking over 3 interviews per week? If the answer is no, okay, have 10 different variations being tested to a different niche? If the answer is no, we go back, we test 10 different variations to 3 different niches, and we see if it's working now. If it's still not working, we implement clay and cold calling into it, so a bit of a more complex setup, but usually this fixes it. And if still for some reason we are not getting 3 interviews a week, then we just pay for the interviews. There's a lot of really great services online where you can just pay for people in the niche that you want, and you can just pay them a few $100 or $100 to hop on an interview with you, whatever. So then we conduct 10 to 20 market research interviews. We fill a foundational worksheet based on interviews. So we have a worksheet where we pretty much map out who are these people we are talking to, what are their desires, pains, goals, failures, fears, dreams, suspicions, what things have they tried out, how long did they try it out, why do they think that they didn't work out, and we are pretty much just gathering as much information as we possibly can so we can write a good sales argument. Then we write a raw version of the sales argument, we present it to the client, and we ask if they agree. If they don't, let's say it doesn't fit with their branding or whatever it might be, we collect client feedback on adjustments and we go and write it again, and then we just spin through this loop as long as the client agrees on it, you know. Then we edit the sales argument and transfer to all necessary formats. So maybe we need a PDF, maybe we need a doc, maybe we need a video, whatever we need. Maybe we need to transfer it into a sales page or like a landing page. And then when all of this is done, we move to stage B, which is here. Boom. Is the client already booking 10 calls a month from outbound? And if they are not booking 10 calls a month from outbound, we start working on the outbound campaigns. If they are booking 10 calls a month from outbound, then we go immediately into increasing the closing rate if it's necessary. So obviously, once again, like the actual process that we use to do these things isn't the most important thing that I'm trying to explain in this video. The thing that I'm trying to explain is that every single step of your service delivery should be once again mapped out, and not just in a format of first do this, then do that, then do this. Because in a lot of cases, it doesn't work like that. In some cases, you go and you launch a campaign, or you write a sales letter, or you implement something in the sales process, or whatever you do, and it doesn't work. You know, that's the part of marketing. That's like, that's what you are doing as a marketer or as a whatever business owner, you know? You try things and some of those things don't work. Of course, if you're better, there's a higher likelihood of it working, but sometimes it doesn't. So you also need to have a protocol for these edge cases. If we just had 6 steps or 7 steps, write a sales argument, do outbound campaigns, implement things in the sales process, do this, do that, do this, we would miss out on a huge amount of potential, because maybe they don't need a sales argument. Maybe you don't need to work on outbound campaigns. Maybe you don't need to do this or that. Maybe we go and we launch an outbound campaign and it doesn't work, you know? So we need to map out every single edge case possible in the scenario. And once again, based on that, we can make different SOPs, we can assign roles, we can assign timelines, and we can show this to the client in a sales call. Hey, John, this is what we are going to do. First, we're going to do this, then this, then this. And the client, once again, has clarity and they have confidence in what they're buying. You know, sometimes you buy, or sometimes you get pitched like a really cryptic service. You're like, yeah, we're going to fix your revenue growth. And the client is like, what the fuck does that mean? What is the next steps? First, we analyze, then we implement, then we iterate. Like, once again, what does that mean? Like, what are the metrics? What are the steps? What are the edge cases? What are the variables that we're looking at? When do we need to do what? How long do we try out different things before we like determine if they work or not? You know, so you need to have these things mapped out. It helps you a lot in sales, but more so it helps you with fulfillment. Because then once again, when you bring on a new client, even if there is creative aspects, even if there are aspects where you need to analyze and make decisions, there is still a clear process. I know for a fact that, hey, when a client comes on, we're gonna first do this, then we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. And I don't have to start guessing around on what we should do. I don't need to start figuring things out. I can just execute, and I can execute to the best of my ability, and our team of 3 growth consultants can also execute to their best of abilities. Because I can tell them, hey, we are going to be working on this step next, and we're going to be doing this and this and this and this. Hey, could you handle this? I'm going to handle this, present this to the client. Everything is going to be so more streamlined. So make sure that you implement your, like, for more complex operations, you implement like yes or no edge case workflows, and then for your easier processes, you implement like easier workflows once again that help you to make sure your agency runs well. And you can use this to either get your agency to a stage where you don't have to work in it, or you can get your agency in a stage where you work in it, but you know just extremely well what you have to do there, and you don't have to do all of the shitty tasks, and you can just get better results. Of course, check the links in description, our mastermind and our free course and all of this stuff. Comment on the video, tell me what you thought, like, subscribe, whatever it might be. I'll see you in the next one. Boom.